Well, here we go again. What's up, everybody? If this is your first time here, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Zach, but you can call me the TN Fanatic, short for the Tennessee Fanatic. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. On this channel, I post reactions to my favorite teams' games, and yes, the Predators are one of them, so you know I'm not a bandwagoner. But this is not about the Preds, no. This video is about the two teams that have made the Stanley Cup Finals again, the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers. For the second straight year, they will vie for the Stanley Cup. Lots of predictions are being made, so I thought I would join in on the fun and give my prediction to which team I believe will hoist the Stanley Cup and why. But first, I want to give just a little recap on how both of these teams, the Oilers and the Panthers, how they both got to the Stanley Cup Final again. And since this series does have like that champion versus challenger vibe, you know, before big fights, the challenger always gets introduced first. So let's talk about the Edmonton Oilers. To my WWE fans out there, I'm definitely feeling some Cody Rhodes vibes when I think of Connor McDavid and this year's Oilers team. They almost remind me of last year's Panthers team and how they fought so hard to get to the finals after being defeated the year prior. And if we're talking about last year's Oilers team, you know, what they did, that's something that you see a lot of in movies, but rarely in real life. Chris Knobloch, in his first, not even full year, remember, because he came in mid-season. He takes the Oilers and he just brings that team back from the dead. They have an impressive playoff run. They get all the way to the Stanley Cup Final. They go down 0-3. And then what happened after? If you saw that that documentary that they did on the Stanley Cup playoffs, Connor, he's in that locker room giving just one of the best sports speeches, in my opinion, of all time. And then Edmonton proceeds to win the next 3 games, forcing a Game 7. And in that Game 7, man, they were just so close. They were 1 goal away from possibly changing their fate and winning the Stanley Cup. It was a great run. Sadly, they just couldn't finish it off, you know, just like Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 39. Sometimes you just won't be better than the absolute best. That night, in that Game 7, we had to acknowledge the Panthers as the best team in the league. But who says that that's where the story has to end? Despite losing guys like Warren Foegele and Jack Campbell during the offseason, Edmonton reloaded by getting players like Victor Arvidsson and Stuart Skinner in net. I will talk more about him later. And Edmonton, as a team, they still had a great regular season. Leon Draisaitl led the league in goals. Him and McDavid were both top 10 in points scored this year. And in round 1 of the playoffs, Edmonton faced a very, very familiar foe in the LA Kings for the 4th straight year. I honestly thought that LA, that was going to be their time to finally break through and win. And look, that's not a shot at the Oilers, but, you know, getting beat 3 years in a row by the same team in the first round, you know, like, I thought LA would have that revenge factor in them. I mean, they put up 12 goals in the first 2 games, but as we all know, Edmonton, they have some offensive firepower of their own. After losing the first 2 games, Edmonton proceeds to win the next 4 and advance to round 2 to face the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, I'm going to call that Vegas and Oilers series. Like, I'm going to call that for what it was. The Oilers dominated that series. Absolutely dominated it. I mean, in Game 3, if Skinner would have just stayed in the net and not tried to be a big hero, Edmonton would have swept Vegas. But hey, a series win is a series win. And you know, I will give credit to Stuart Skinner because he has earned it. Game 3, yes, he did blow it, like right at the end there, but games 4 and 5, he was just on fire. In games 4 and 5, Skinner made 47 saves total in that span, and he did not allow a great Golden Knights team to score on him not one time. So Oilers would clinch that series, and then conference finals, a rematch against the Dallas Stars. Game 1, Edmonton's up 3-1. I'm like, They're taking care of business. And then Dallas scores 5 goals in the third, and I'm like, Edmonton's not taking care of business. But don't worry, Oilers fans, because what followed was McDavid and Draisaitl on the bench, staring at each other and just, doing their classic Mordecai and Rigby impression. And hey, looks like it worked, because from then on, there was nothing regular about these Edmonton Oilers. They would outscore Dallas 13-2 through the next 3 games, winning them all, and then in Game 5, it got even worse. Unger allows 2 goals on 2 shots. Peter DeBoer then loses his marbles. He loses his mind, takes Oettinger out, and then, Oettinger, honestly, poor guy, honestly, because not only was he taken out of the game, right, but then he had to sit next to Ray Ferraro, who then highlighted the 2 goals that he allowed. I mean, just, honestly, man, I almost felt bad for Jake in that moment. So after Edmonton scores the first 3, Dallas does come back, makes it a game. They score the next 2. But then, shortly after, it's a breakaway for Edmonton, and guess who has it on his stick? None other than Connor McDavid. He scores to give the Oilers back their 2-goal lead. Edmonton would take that momentum all the way to the end of the game, winning it 6-3 and advancing to the Stanley Cup Final for the 2nd straight year. And now they have the chance to do what many characters do in the movies, to do what Cody Rhodes did at WrestleMania 40. Finish their story. And what could be more sweet for Edmonton is that they get the chance to redeem themselves against the same team that beat them last year, the Florida Panthers. I just had to say this to start this off. I think it's really impressive that in today's world of sports, right, there are so many great teams in every league. And we have teams like, yes, I'll go ahead and say it, the Kansas City Chiefs and this year's Panthers, who maintain this championship contending consistency year after year. And that, of course, is a testament to the team's ownership, the management, the coaching, and of course, the players. For Florida, tons of their guys had a great regular season. Sam Reinhart was top 10 in goals scored this regular season with 39. Barkov, he led the team in assists and racked up 71 points himself. Verhaeghe, Bennett, and Tkachuk each all finished with over 50 points. And Sergei Bobrovsky, another solid year for him in net with 33 wins, 5 shutouts, and a save percentage of .906. Florida was not only great again this year, but they were also very healthy. Probably the biggest blow to their team was when Matthew got hurt during the Foreign Nations faceoff. But then in the playoffs against Tampa in round 1, Matthew comes back and he did not miss a beat, racking up 3 points and helping his team take that game. Florida would take that momentum and just dominate the rest of that series with Tampa advancing to round 2 to face the Toronto Maple Leafs. That Leafs and Panthers series, for me, that was one of the most entertaining series of these entire playoffs. Leafs took a 2-0 series lead. Florida wins the next 3. And then in Game 6, Austin Matthews, he finally does Austin Matthews things and scores the game winner, sending it back to Toronto for Game 7. And in that Game 7, before it started, I was like, you know what? Is this the year? Is this when the Leafs finally win a Game 7? But nah, come on. Like, it's the Leafs. Of course they're going to choke. That loss to Florida, that had to hit Leafs Nations harder than Sam Bennett's hit on Anthony Stolarz. But you know what, Leafs fans, they probably did pull a Stolarz after that game and just puked all over the place. Conference Finals against the Canes. Another example of a team trying to prove the doubters wrong. For Carolina, it wasn't just the doubt of them winning a conference championship. It was the doubt of them even winning a single game in the conference finals. I mean, the Panthers just smoked them, and the Canes, they are a good team. And my goodness, their defense and goaltending, some of the worst I've seen in this year's playoffs. Through the first 3 games, Florida outscored Carolina 16-4. Canes did win game 4, which, you know what? Good for y'all, Canes fans. Honestly, I really hope you all enjoyed that. Because game 5, man. Actually, you know what? Aho gave the Canes a 2-goal lead. He gave them a chance to win that game. But then, I don't know what happened. The Canes just collapsed. What if Florida scored like 3 goals in 5 minutes? And they'd wrap up that so-called series with a 5-3 win, advancing to their 3rd straight Stanley Cup final. Ron Brindamore, you better thank your stars. You're lucky that Paul Maurice, he even shook your hand at all when that series was over. I mean, hey, next time, maybe if you win the series, maybe if your team actually shows up in the conference finals, maybe Maurice, maybe he will shake your hand at center ice. And I just want to say this, because I think this is a pretty funny stat. And I think that this speaks to the volume of just how bad Carolina has been in the conference finals in recent years. Check this out. Since 2007, the Carolina Hurricanes have had the same amount of wins in the conference finals since the now debunked Arizona Coyotes franchise. But Canes fans, look, I don't think y'all should feel bad at all that your team got smoked. The Panthers just, come playoff time, they just turn it up to another level. And now here they are in the Stanley Cup final again for the 3rd straight year. That's incredible. It's only the 4th time since 1980 that the same team has appeared in the Stanley Cup final 3 years in a row. The Panthers, they are, again, just an incredible organization. And now they have the chance to win their 2nd straight championship. You know, I feel like we are in the midst of something like really special here. Like, this is going to be a very entertaining final. No doubt about it. This is only the 3rd time in NHL history that the same 2 teams will play in the Stanley Cup final 2 years in a row. It first happened with the Islanders and Oilers in 83 and 84. Then it happened again with Pittsburgh and Detroit in 08 and 09. And now it's happening again. This Oilers team knows better than most that they can't get behind against Florida in any fashion. They gotta be the aggressors and make Florida play their game. For Florida, they're definitely gonna be looking to shut down the great duo of McDavid and Draisaitl. Easier said than done. Those guys have combined for 51 points during the postseason. However, what's really impressed me about this Oilers team during the playoffs is that everyone's scoring. 19 different Oilers players have scored a goal in these playoffs. 8 of them have scored 5 or more. So scoring depth for the Oilers, not a problem in this final. And I don't think it'll be a problem for the Panthers either. During the playoffs, 10 different Panthers have generated at least 11 points. 8 players posting at least 4 goals. So as cliche as this might sound, this series, it might come down to the goaltending. Both Bobrovsky and Skinner have been playing phenomenal. For Stuart Skinner, ever since being put back into the net, about midway through the Vegas series, Skinner has just been on another level. Stuart has recorded 3 shutouts in his last 7 starts and has allowed more than a single goal just twice in that span. Here's what I will say. If Edmonton gets in a penalty trouble, that could be detrimental to Skinner, to their team, and that could be a big boost for Florida. Edmonton will be going into this final with just a 66% success rate on the penalty kill, going up against one of the best power play teams in the Florida Panthers. And we've seen in this year's playoffs how a poor penalty kill matches up with a great power play, and the result is a lot of goals scored. Going back to game 1 of that Oilers and Stars series for just one moment. Stuart Skinner, right up until the 3rd period, was having a great game. And then in that 3rd period, rough for the dude. He allows 4 goals. Breaking that down, Miro Heiskanen, Mikael Granlund, and Matt Duchene each scored a power play goal in the span of just 5 minutes and 26 seconds. And the Panthers have scored a total of 13 power play goals this postseason. So, here's what I'm going to say. If Edmonton gets into penalty trouble, who's to say this won't happen again? Who's to say Florida won't rack up the score sheet like Dallas did in Game 1? So staying out of the penalty box, I feel like that's got to be a huge priority for Edmonton because you're not beating Bobrovsky with a man down. Prior to Game 5 of the Canes series, Sergei Bobrovsky, he played 8 straight games where he allowed 2 or less goals, 2 shutouts in that span. Some would say Bobrovsky is playing the best hockey of his already decorated career. I mean, I know it's the finals, but between these two teams, like, it is tough to pick. I mean, strong arguments can be made for both sides, but only one can win, so I have to make a choice. So I mentioned a little bit ago that this is, again, the 3rd time that we have a Stanley Cup Finals rematch. Breaking down the first one with the Islanders and Oilers. That was Wayne Gretzky's first Stanley Cup Final. He lost, but Wayne and his team came back the following year and won in 2008. Sid the Kid lost to the Red Wings in the Stanley Cup Final. The following year, Crosby and his team, they beat the Red Wings to win the Stanley Cup. And now Connor McDavid, a generational talent, an all-time great, absolutely, lost his first Stanley Cup Final. He has now come back to the finals to face the same team that caused him and the Oilers that shame in the Florida Panthers, and he has the chance to redeem himself and win the Stanley Cup for the first time. Look, I normally don't pick with emotion. I try to be a realist and just look at everything. I am feeling it just a little bit. These Oilers, man, they're tugging on the heartstrings. Look, Oilers fans, if I do this, if I say that your team is going to win, you have to like this video. Because if I say your team is going to win, I'm getting letters. Not comments, but letters from Panthers fans telling me how much of an idiot that I am picking against their team. But here's what I'll say. If Skinner has more pixie dust in his pocket, and if Edmonton stays out of the penalty box, I like the scoring depth of Edmonton just a little bit more, led by the dynamic duo of McDavid and Draisaitl. So, fans, the team that I believe will win this year's Stanley Cup is the Edmonton Oilers! Bam! Bam, baby! There it is. There's my prediction. I say that the Oilers will win in 6 games. Let me know how much you disagree with me in the comments. Or if you agree, let me know that as well. Fans, I'll be posting reactions to every single game in the Stanley Cup Final, so look for that. The first game is on Wednesday, so look for my reaction shortly after that game. But fans, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you all enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, and you can join our Fanatic Army. And honey, salute to all of you as always, and I hope that all of you have a fantastic day.